Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitayah Pataye Namaha. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane Vidyapitha Vidhataram Vidyavaridhi Chandiram Vidyarthi Vatsalam Vande Mahamahima Sadgurum. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ramayana is a historical epic. This epic was written by Valmiki Maharshi, comprising 24,000 shlokas. Each and every shloka explains the glory of Lord Rama in its own way. To explain such glory of Lord Rama in a very single verse containing just simple 4 lines is really remarkable in its own way. Lord Rama is not just the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He led a very legendary life, and his every step can be seen as a role model for many youngsters today. The small verse. Adau Rama Tapovanaadigamanam Hatva Mrugam Kanchanam Vaidehi Haranam Jatayumaranam Sugriva Sambhashanam Vali Nigrahanam Samudra Taranam Lankapuri Dahanam Paschadravana Kumbhakarna Mathanam Etadhi Ramayanam. This single verse, it explains the whole story of Lord Sri Rama by picking up the main attributes from the epic. First, let us take a glance about Lord Rama's birth. King Dasharatha was a very prosperous king. He was loved by one and all. He had everything he desired, but no issues. Disturbed Dasharatha bore to sage Vasishta. He was advised to perform Putra Kameshti Yaga, which was a sacrifice to seek the blessings of God for children as a boon. As a result, the king received the boon of children, and he became father to 4 sons: Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. Lord Rama was born today, and it is celebrated worldwide as Sri Ramanavami. Soon time passed. All the princes grew up to be tall, strong, handsome, brave, and they reached their adolescent age. One day, the revered sage Vishwamitra Swamiji came to Ayodhya and requested the king Dasharatha to send Lord Rama to kill the Rakshasas who were disturbing their sacrifices and causing many hindrances. The starting phrase, Adau Rama Tapo Vanadigamanam, is explained. Upon the order given by his father, Lord Rama and Lakshmana strictly followed the orders of sage Vishwamitra and fought many demons like Tataka, Maricha, Subahu and many more who caused hindrances in the Rishi's sacrifice. Pleased Vishwamitra taught several mantras, what we call them as divine chants, in order to fight against evil. Hatva Mrugam Kanchanam is explained here. The next phrase, Vaidehi Haranam. Here on the other side, Vaidehi is referred to goddess Sita Devi. King Janaka Maharaja was the king of Vidarbha kingdom. He was also called Videha Raja. His daughter Sita came to be known as Vaidehi. Vishwamitra, along with the princes Rama and Lakshmana, were passing through the city of Mithila, the capital of Vidarbha kingdom. King Janaka, knowing this, invited them to bless the king and attend the yajna he had arranged. The sage accepted the invitation. Janaka Maharaja was a very saintly king. He did penance and received a bow from Lord Shiva as a boon. The bow was very strong and envious. It came to be known as Shivadhanasu. Literally 5,000 soldiers together brought the bow, and that was the power of the bow. No one could even move a little bit. Janaka Maharaja put forth a condition. He vowed to give Sita into marriage to the one who could string the great bow. In fact, he wanted his son-in-law to be the bravest and strongest prince in the country. Many princes, along with Ravana, tried to bow the bow, but no one could even move it, let alone string it. Vishwamitra had a desire to marry Ram and Sita. He requested Janaka to give a chance to Rama. Janaka Maharaja looked at the young prince and assented doubtfully, but upon the order of the sage, he allowed Rama. Lord Rama stood up in humility. He bowed his guru, picked up the bow with ease, put forth his might, and in a fraction of a second, he bent the bow to string it, and suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the bow completely snapped into two pieces, and King Janaka Maharaja was absolutely stunned. He happily gave away his daughter Sita into marriage with Ram. At the same time, Janaka Maharaja gave away his brother's three daughters to Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna respectively. In the very front, Dasharatha decided to crown his eldest son Lord Rama as the heir to the throne. But fate has its own play. Kaikeyi, Bharata's mother, was in the palace rejoicing with other queens and sharing the happy news of Rama's coronation. She also loved Rama as his own son, but her wicked maid Manthara, who was said to be the incarnation of Alakshmi, wife of Kali, couldn't bear the happiness. She devised a very heinous plan to thwart Rama's coronation. She completely changed Kaikeyi's mind and poisoned her heart and mind with suspicion and doubt. Confused, Kaikeyi and distraught finally agreed to Manthara's plan. Manthara was very clever enough to chalk out her plan and reminded her of her boons given by the king. Hence, Kaikeyi asked to fulfill her two boons as of now. One, to crown Bharata, and next, to send Rama to exile for 14 years. Dasharatha, who had already given his vow, helplessly had to accept it, and Rama happily accepted it. He, along with his companion Sita and accompanied by brother Lakshmana, left to the forest immediately. Here, the next phrase, Vaidehi Haranam, abduction of Sita, takes place. Rama and Lakshmana, along with Sita, they were living in the exile and performing their daily duties. Shurpanakha, Ravana's sister, happened to see Rama and instantly fell in love. She requested Rama to be her husband. Rama rejected and she immediately approached Lakshmana. She faced rejection there also. Furious, she attacked Sita in order to devour her. Lakshmana swiftly intervened and cut off her nose and her ears with his dagger. Shurpanakha ran away, suffering in pain, and her Asura brothers, her demon brothers Khara and Dusshana, marched their army towards Panchavati. Rama and Lakshmana killed all of them with ease, leaving Shurpanakha terror-stricken. She fled to Lanka for Ravana's protection. Ravana was outraged seeing her mutilated, but he had more interest in Sita and decided to abduct her. See, always interest matters. Ravana sent Maricha, who had a boon to take any form, along with appropriate voice mutilation. Upon the order of Ravana, Maricha took the form of a golden deer and began to graze near Rama's cottage. Sita was attracted and requested Rama to get the golden deer for her. Lakshmana was there to guard Sita. Here, Maricha again began his foul play. He shouted Lakshmana to help him in the form of by taking Rama's voice. Hesitantly, Lakshmana, who knew his brother was invincible, but upon Sita's orders, he reluctantly drew a line and asked her not to cross it and went to Rama's rescue. Ravana, on the other hand, took the form of a hermit, and asked for alms. Sita brought a bowl of rice to offer, and Ravana abducted her then and there itself and flew off within the clouds. Here the next phrase, Jatayu Maranam, is explained. Both the brothers, upon knowing what had happened, searched Sita everywhere nearby to find the whereabouts of her. But suddenly they heard Jatayu crying. Jatayu was the son of Aruna, who was a charioteer of sun god. Jatayu and Sampati were the sons of Aruna. Upon inquiring, Jatayu explained everything detailedly, how he tried to save Sita from the clutches of Ravana. Ravana cut off both his wings and he fell on the ground, and they flew towards the south. Saying so, he died on the laps of Lord Rama itself. Here, Sugriva Sambhashanam takes place, a conversation between Sugriva and Lord Rama. We may just make a false opinion about the character of Rama, who was completely immersed in these materialistic pleasures, thinking so. Rama, along with this, he destroyed many demons like Kakasura. He gave salvation to Sharabhanga Rishi and Virada. He saved Kabandha, who was turned into a monster by a curse. In fact, Kabandha advised Rama and Lakshmana to visit Rishamukha mountain and meet King Sugriva, who would come to his rescue in one or other way. On their way, he fulfilled Shabari's dream and gave her moksha. Rama and Lakshmana visited Kishkindha. On the way, they met the minister Hanuman, and Hanuman introduced the brothers to the king Sugriva and narrated their story. Sugriva also told his story and sought help from Rama to kill Vali, his brother. Otherwise, he couldn't help even if he wanted to. In due course, Vali was killed and Sugriva became the king of Kishkindha. Soon after Sugriva took over the kingdom of Vali, he ordered his entire army to proceed in search of Sita. This is what Vali Nigrahanam is explained. Vali was killed by Lord Rama and his kingdom was given to Sugriva. Sugriva was crowned as the king. Rama gave his ornament, a ring, to Hanuman and asked him to give it to Sita in case he finds, to prove his identity as a messenger of Lord Rama. We all know about Sugriva Agnya. Sugriva Agnya is considered as a supreme one. If one doesn't follow his orders, he will be given death sentence. The army, who went to the directions of north, east and west, couldn't find Sita. They were reluctant to go back because they were afraid that they will be sentenced to death as they couldn't accomplish the order given by their king. They all fled to Rukshabila cave, which was constructed by Mayasura, and took rescue there. Towards the direction of south, Angada, Jambavanta and Lord Hanuman, along with many others, went to Rameshwaram and saw the ocean next and stopped there itself. There, they met Sampati, brother of Jatayu, and Jatayu confirmed that Ravana took Sita to Lanka. Here, Samudra Taranam takes place. Everyone discussed their powers. Everyone were discussing their powers. How far they could fly. The distance was 100 yojanas. Finally, it was only Hanuman who had the full capacity. Hanuman enlarged himself to a huge size. After overcoming many obstacles, Lord Hanuman reached Lanka. He soon contracted his body into a tiny, insignificant creature. He searched the entire palace, each and every chamber, but couldn't find Sita anywhere. Finally, he located her in Ashokavana. He gave the ring given by Lord Rama and described Rama and Lakshmana's wrath. Sita gave her Chudamani to Hanuman as an evidence confirming their meeting. Hanuman took the form of a monkey and destroyed all the trees of Ashoka garden. Upon informing Ravana, Ravana sent many Rakshasas, many demons to kill him. Everything went in vain. Finally, Ravana sent Indrajit and Indrajit captured Hanuman by throwing a Brahmastra on him. Ravana inquired Hanuman his whereabouts and upon his coming to Lanka. Hanuman replied that he was a messenger of Rama. Instantly, Ravana became wild with rage. He ordered to kill Hanuman. Suddenly, Vibhishana, who was the royal minister, objected, saying that one cannot kill a king's envoy. Hence, Ravana set Hanuman's tail on fire. Hanuman, cleverly increasing his size and lengthening it, and paraded through all the streets of Lanka and set the complete Lanka kingdom on fire. This is what we call it as Lanka Puri Dahanam. Hanuman immediately flew back and quickly went to Rama and handed over the jewel. Rama happily hugged him and blessed him accordingly. Rama, Lakshmana, Sugriva, Hanuman, Angada, Jambavanta, Nala, and along with the entire army, everyone set to bring Sita back towards Lanka. They reached the tip of the Mahendra mountain and stopped as to how would the entire army reach Lanka kingdom by crossing the ocean. On the other hand, Vibhishana tried to advise Ravana, but Ravana threw him out of the kingdom, considering him as an enemy. Vibhishana directly approached Rama and sought his asylum. He became the closest advisor soon in the war. To reach Lanka, Rama decided to build a bridge. Thousands of monkeys gathered and brought all the materials required. Nala, the great architect, built it in a very short span, and the entire army soon reached Lanka. As a mandatory, Rama sent Angada for compromise as a messenger. Ravana stood stern on his decision, and hence the preparation for the war began. The next phrase, Ravana Kumbhakarna Mathanam. We all are familiar with the Sanskrit saying, Rama Ravana Yor Yuddham, Rama Ravana Yoriva, which means there is no comparison to the battle between Rama and Ravana. It was such a ferocious one. Thousands of monkeys hurled huge boulders against the city walls and gates. They broke each and every items. Many were dead on both the sides, soaking the entire ground of Lanka in blood. Indrajit, Ravana's son, took the command. Kumbhakarna was assisted. Kumbhakarna entered the battlefield. He made it challenging for everyone. Finally, Rama discharged the powerful weapon and Kumbhakarna fell dead. Ravana completely was shocked upon the death of his brother. Indrajit, on the other side, with a boon from the lords, became invisible and started attacking the army. It became difficult as no one could locate him, and the arrows were coming from all the sides, but no one could locate exactly Indrajit's identity. One of the powerful arrows hit Lakshmana, and Lakshmana became unconscious. Immediately, upon the order of his guru, Hanuman flew to Gandhamadhana hill and brought Sanjeevani, which was needed to revive Lakshmana. On applying it, Lakshmana immediately gained consciousness and the battle resumed. Lakshmana also fought back at Indrajit and finally beheaded him. With the fall of Indrajit, Ravana was in complete despair. Forcefully, he rushed to Rama face to face, and Rama, with a single blow, killed Ravana. All the Rakshasas stood silent in amazement. They could scarcely believe their eyes. The end was so sudden and final. After Ravana's death, Vibhishana was duly crowned as the king of Lanka. Rama and Sita were united and their 14 years of exile also completed. Soon they arrived at the kingdom of Ayodhya and lived there happily ever after, ruling their kingdom. This is the story of Ramayana, Etadhi Ramayana. The single verse explains each and every part of Ramayana clearly by picking up the main credentials of Ramayana. Adau Rama Tapovanadi Gamanam, Hatva Mrugam Kanchanam, Vaidehi Haranam, Jatayu Maranam, Sugriva Sambhashanam, Vali Nigrahanam, Samudra Taranam, Lankapuri Dahanam, Paschadravana Kumbhakarna Mathanam, Etadhi Ramayanam. On this auspicious occasion of Ram Navami, A truly legendary character, Rama, a legendary person, incarnation of Lord Vishnu, has shown us a way which is indeed to be known, followed, and which is to be imbibed in our hearts, deeply in our mind and hearts. गुरुवर्ते त्यक्तराज्यो व्यचरदनुवनं पद्मपद्भ्यां प्रियायाः पाणिस्पर्शाक्षमाभ्यां रुचितपथरुजो यो हरीन्द्रानुजाभ्यां वैरूप्याच्चूर्पणख्याः प्रियविरहरुषारोपितभ्रूविजृम्भ त्रस्ताब्धिर्बद्धसेतुः खलदवदहनः कोसलेन्द्रोऽवतान्नः. ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣಾರ್ಪಣಮಸ್ತು.